Okay. Hello and welcome to Women of Worth Wednesday. I am going to apologize for the delay because I think the new normal is technology is all we have, and technology isn't always cooperating. And so I am thrilled and honored to have my friend Kathy Aiken with me today on Women of Worth Wednesday. And we're using a new technology format to try to do this social distancing interview. When we scheduled this, we were going to be in person. As often we have guests on Women of Worth Wednesday, but because we're all living a pandemic, we're using other tools and methods, and it was a little tricky today. So we're so grateful to have Kathy with us today and to have her wisdom and her professionalism and my friendship with her. I feel really grateful. I was trying to think, Kathy, how long have we known each other in person?
I think it's been about six years.
Yeah.
6 years is what I'm guessing. And yeah, I miss seeing you. That's part of this whole thing is seeing good friends and going to lunch. And hopefully one day soon we'll get back.
I have my list of, as soon as this is over, I need to start writing it down, because I keep reaching out to people like you saying, okay, as soon as this is over, because it's one of the regrets, which I think leads exactly into what we're talking about today. It's one of my regrets that all those little lunch appointments that I kept saying, okay, next month I'm going to get that on the calendar, I'm going to reach out to her. I didn't do it. And then all of a sudden, the whole world shut down. So we're excited to have a chance to share some thoughts and feelings. And I think we connected right after I had gone through a loss of my own. It's been about 6 years. Well, in March, it was 6 years since my sister Meg died by suicide. And her birthday is on Friday. And so my heart has been turned to her this week a lot more. But before we jump into, I think, what we share in common along the lines of grief and sharing stories, tell our viewers that may not know you, you're a pretty well-known woman. I'm just going to say this. We're pretty lucky to have you.
You're kind.
You have a pretty stellar resume, 35 years in broadcasting. Is that right? Did I get that right?
About 32, but that's, okay. Over 30, I think we're going, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Okay.
I grew up a tomboy, and always, sports was my passion, and was so blessed to have been able to work in the sports broadcasting business in Salt Lake City. And
you were a revolutionary as a woman.
Yeah, I was very fortunate with that to kind of break in. And there were a few women at the time on ESPN, and Charlene Hawks was here locally, the former Miss America, who went on to ESPN. And so I was extremely blessed to be able to do that. And I've just seen numerous ways throughout my career that the doors have been opened to me by my Heavenly Father. And it's given me so many opportunities to meet amazing people that I've been able to share their stories that I think have then gone on to inspire other people to live better lives, I guess. And so that's kind of why I ventured in from my sports broadcasting career into what I'm doing now.
So before we jump into that a little bit, you're a mom of 3 boys, right?
3 boys, yep.
So God knew that he was sending boys to a woman that loves sports, and I think that was like a win for them, right?
Exactly. We had so much fun. Yeah, I took them to practices with me with the Jazz, or, football, BYU or the University of Utah football practices, and they had so much fun. So yeah, I kind of wondered if I had had a girl. I don't think I could have done her hair. I've always had short hair. So I don't know if I could do cute girl hair, but I'm hoping one day to get a granddaughter, and we'll give it a try.
We now have daughter-in-laws, right? Do you have 2?
I have 1 daughter-in-law, yes, and they're expecting our first grandchild in August, another boy, and we are so excited. We can't wait.
Okay, that's so great. And so you did this broadcast journalism career, and you are really gifted at sharing stories. And I love that you were a sports broadcaster as a female. I think having both female male perspectives in all industries is a gift.
Absolutely.
And then a few years ago, you went through a loss, like many of us. And I think especially during this pandemic right now, that's happening for families. People are passing. For me, I'm seeing suicide rates on the rise. but especially our older population are more vulnerable to the coronavirus, to COVID-19. What was your specific loss, and what are kind of the facts or dynamics around what happened for you?
So my mother was very ill, probably for about 5 years before she passed away. And I took the opportunity to interview her whenever I could, and to get to know her better, her life story and things about her childhood, what she wishes she would have done over, what she was glad she did, these kind of questions that I wanted to make sure I wouldn't forget. And I realized once she passed and I created a video of her life, so many of my family said to me, you know, I would give anything to have had that of my parent or my grandparent. And I thought, you know, I don't think people are doing this enough. And so that's where I came up with the idea of the Forget Me Not project. And so it's interviewing primarily elderly, some are younger, so that they can share their life story. And what I do is I add music and photos and really make it into a really nice production piece that they can share with their posterity. And I've learned, Ganel-Lyn, over the years in broadcasting that the younger generation, they have such a short attention span. So it's really hard to get them to even read someone's family history. But I think now that we're putting it onto video and they can see their faces, they can hear their laughter, they can learn what hardships they overcame, they hear their testimonies of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I have to be honest, I've had some really amazing spiritual experiences doing this. And many of them have come when people have shared their testimony, and I just have known and had experiences where these testimonies are going to help someone in their posterity down the line.
I love that the Lord has provided new tools for us to navigate. And I think everything is being hastened in building the kingdom, right?
Right.
And so with temples closed and missionaries coming home right now, our family's indexing. And so the olden days, quote unquote, when my grandparents were doing family history, it was pull out the book of remembrances and those big pages.
Yeah.
And even I've watched them for years. My grandparents would like set aside years to work on their family history and try to write their stories and try to get their life history down in book form. And we have some of those, but I think you're right. There's something, the texture of a video and a voice that you can't even, I'm an author, and it's hard to in the career that I have to get that voice to translate on paper.
Right.
But when you video someone and you hear their stories, what did your mom share with you that you learned that you maybe hadn't, were there stories you had never heard her share before because you pulled the camera out?
You know, there really was. And it was, she was in a care facility in Holiday, Utah. And that's where we grew up. And so that was her final place before she passed away. And I remember her telling me, you know, pointing just down the street, she said, I used to pick fruit for my grandmother over there and sell it on the corner. And that's how I made my money in the summer. And I said, Mom, you've never told me that story. And all of our family grew up in the Holiday area. And so to me, it just brought to life. So every time I drive past there now, I look at that piece of property and picture my mother there as a child selling that fruit. And I thought, I'm so glad I asked her that question. And that's what we need to do, Ganel-Lyn, just ask the questions. If people, you know, don't come to us, turn on your cell phones, ask them questions. And you're right, with this pandemic, I know if my mother, if I was not able to go to see her in her care facility one-on-one, that would have killed her. That would have been devastating to her not to have her children with her. So when this opens back up and you can, please talk to them, ask them questions. I did an interview on a gentleman. His laugh was so priceless. And I thought his posterity will never forget.
Yeah.
Listen to this and they'll go, I remember when he would laugh when we got together or whatever. But there's so many stories my mother told me that brought back to life her childhood. And, you know, she and my dad went through a really difficult divorce, and her thoughts on that and some of her trials that she was able to overcome that have helped me in my life think, if my mom can do that, I can do that as well.
Well, and I think, we titled this Modern Family History because I think we have so many other tools right now to capture what is happening in our lives. And oftentimes I hear from people, well, I don't keep a journal. Who's going to care about what I did today? Who's going to care about this? And yet, I mean, it just takes, I think both you and I have experienced some pretty extreme grief. You also lost a sister in the last few years. That we know the value of life, and the minute something can change everything, all of a sudden it isn't the big awards or the promotion at work or the fancy house or the cars. None of that matters. All of a sudden it's that tree that you drive by in Holiday where you think of her. Like I have the same thing. My grandparents, my grandmother and I were so close, and I held her in bed when she passed.
I remember that story.
They lived in these apartment condos right by the McEwen Mansion downtown. And they lived there so long. So they were L. Tom Perry's home teachers back in the day. My grandparents home taught him for 18 years. So I often would share a hymn book with big L. Tom Perry. But they lived in that building before the Deseret Gym was ripped down. So we watched that happen and the conference center be built, and the tornado, hurricane, whatever that came through Salt Lake, like shattered all of their windows on their little condo. Anyways, every time, Kathy, I'm even close to that part of downtown, I have a flood. Like I can feel it now. Like I have a flood of emotions of gratitude that I have someone on the other side of the veil that is ministering to me and cheering me on. I just listened to President Nelson a few years ago at Roots Tech. He told a story of his grandfather coming back and visiting and talking about how organized the other side of the veil is and how busy they are, and that they're assigned things to do, right? Which is what I think we all sense is happening.
Yeah.
But he said, we have documents here. We're keeping a record. So whether it's family history or indexing or writing a history for someone that we care about, he said that through that vision, it was known to them that they will correct whatever we get wrong. And
Wow.
so I think we have so many things that are helping us like remove those old barriers or fears. And your business right now is, if you're not comfortable videotaping and splicing a video together, you'll come in and do that for a client. But what are your thoughts on getting, I have extended family members that are more hesitant at certain times to talk. I have older members of our family that the past is traumatic. You mentioned your parents' divorce, and sometimes they're resistant to talk about certain things. In all your years of broadcasting, how do you get someone to start to share a story? Did we lose you? You froze up. I'm going to keep talking and hopefully you're going to unfreeze here. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm sad because I don't want to lose this streaming.
You there? There we go.
Yay! Okay, I rebooted. Okay, did you hear my question?
I think it dropped off right when you said your family, your extended family.
Okay. I kept chatting because I was like, wow, she's holding her face so still. I was like, well, I'm just gonna keep talking about my grandma and maybe she'll move or something.
That's what I learned in the broadcast business.
I know. I was trying to cover it, and then finally I was like, I think she's frozen. Okay, so my question was, I have some extended family members, and maybe some of our viewers are experiencing this too, where they don't want to talk. They've lived through a war. They've lived through trauma. What are your suggestions before we kind of close down? And then I'd love your testimony on anything you want to share to get someone to talk. Because I love that you said your mom shared about her divorce. And I think I've watched some family members as they've aged, they get a little more comfortable on certain things, or the closer they get to maybe thinking this is the end, they're willing to start talking about it in a different way. What do you suggest to people to get their loved ones to start to share?
Well, it's interesting. I'll have people say, you know, my mother's too nervous. I think they think I'm going to come and then I'm going to air this on KSL or something. You know, and I think, no, this is just for you and whoever you want to share it with. And usually it's just with family. But I want to show this really quickly. This is my mother.
Oh,
Let's see. There we go. My mother and my sister, who have both passed, and it is so hard because she was my only sister, and it's been really hard.
How long ago did she pass? Was it 2 years ago?
No, it was only 6 months ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I feel like the last 6 weeks has felt like a year. So
Hasn't it though? Yeah. So it's been really hard. I'm actually on Family Search now, uploading some pictures for her for memories. And hopefully one day we can get these videos on Family Search. So,
yes,
you know, posterity. Anyway, the thing is, Ganel-Lyn, I try to tell these people when we come in, we make it, it's really a comfortable situation. And I've always found that, you know, we start off, tell me where you were born. What was your childhood like? Talk about high school. What were your parents like? Tell me how you met your spouse. What's the key to a happy marriage? These kind of things. And they slowly start opening up and then we get a little bit more deep, and they are really start sharing some amazing things. And it's interesting to me, I'll ask the men and women the same question: what was your greatest success in life? And women, without a doubt, immediately it's their family, it's their children. Men, they add that, but generally they go towards, you know, what they did for business or whatever. But it's so fascinating to me to see how they all in that particular one, family is key. Family is what it's all about. Towards the end, I asked them, what's the greatest message you want to leave to your posterity? And almost always it's stay close to the gospel, stay close to the Savior. You will never go wrong. And these messages, I can just sense as I'm putting these together that their posterity is going to be so grateful for these when they can literally see them face to face telling them these things. And it's going to be something that sinks in instead of just reading it on the page. It's so different. But I think if you just start out asking simple questions, eventually they start opening up a little bit more. I just interviewed a man who was born in Germany, and he talked about when he was about 8 years old. He said they were out at night and it was like it was daytime because the bombings of World War II lit up the sky. And then they immigrated to the United States when I think he was 15 or 16 years old. And so I'm thinking, wow, his posterity is going to go, Grandpa, that's amazing that you went through that. Tell me more about that. That had to be really scary for you to be in that kind of situation. And so I have just been so blessed to hear so many amazing stories of people, the hardships they've had in life. I'll tell you, Ganel-Lyn, it makes you feel like, okay, I can do this. They did that. I can do this. Together, right? We all have a story to tell.
Right. And I love that. I love that you mentioned Family Search, because I feel like there are tools, and I especially feel like with temples closed, we can create the temple in our home by doing whatever. And I know like Marco Polo app is a free app. There's a capacity, if you get your grandparents or your parents on that, to download those videos. So even if you're social distancing and you're not sure how to capture those videos, there's ways in which we can save so much to our phone and then upload them. And I love the idea of setting some time aside every week. That's what we've kind of done. Thursday nights are our temple night here, and we try to like change the music in the house and do some indexing and just kind of, but whatever we need to do, I think you and I both can testify that once those people are gone, right? Like it's my grandma's hands. I don't know if I told you that.
Yes.
It's her hands that I remember the day she passed. I stared at her hands.
Yeah.
And I tried so hard to I knew I was going to forget. And I don't have pictures of just her hands, you know?
You know, that's interesting you say that. I literally was talking to my dad on Sunday, and I said, it was fascinating to me. His mother, my grandma Annie, I miss so badly, but her daughter, her hand movements and her hand gestures are identical. And it just, every time I visit my aunt, I see my grandma and her. But you know what, Ganel-Lyn, that's one picture I took when I was with my mother in her care facility. I took a picture of me holding her hand, and her hand was so bruised from so many needle pokes and things, you know, and it was just a hard life towards the end. And I actually had a professional photographer who's a neighbor of mine come over and take a picture of the two of us holding hands.
I love that.
I will never forget that. And so, you know, it's just simple things like that, Ganel-Lyn, that people can do to remember their loved ones. And I hope they do. And maybe if they have a family reunion this year, turn on the cell phone, just say, Grandma, can you come over here? I've got some questions I want to ask. And they're priceless, and they'll never regret doing it.
And I love that you brought up this man that you interviewed about war. And then I want to let you close with any thoughts on how people can find you and hire you if that's the way they want to go about doing this. Because I have been thinking about family members and Elder Uchtdorf and all this talks about Germany and the war. I've tried to channel these older people that have a resilience. They've lived through the Depression. They've lived through a war, because so much of what is happening to us as humans right now in a human family is new. Like, I don't know very many people that have lived through a pandemic of any sort. And so I've been thinking about, okay, what did Elder Uchtdorf say at that Christmas broadcast about Christmas during the time where he had nothing to get, right? Or, you know, my mother-in-law who's lived through the Depression, and then their home burned down and they had to start completely over. I've really been reflecting the last 6 weeks about what they have lived through and what they could teach us. And I think that, like you said, even if it's not an older person, are we videotaping one another? My kids are going to be the leaders in the future. And I keep saying these COVID-19 missionaries are going to have muscle memory to lead us in the future when we're going to have more of this. And they're going to know. The rest of us in our 40s to 60s, we don't know what we're doing, because I keep telling my kids, I've never done this before. I don't know. So that would be my closing thought, that whatever we gather, whether it's video, whether it's pictures, whether it's scrapbooking, whether it's chat books, whether it's Marco Polo apps, or uploading anything to Family Search, that whatever we do, sometimes we make it so big in our heads. And I love that you have a business that kind of makes it doable. But we make it so big that I think the adversary discourages us. He makes us think we have to have these volumes or professional written, family stories. And it doesn't have to be that. Anything that we do, I think, is family history.
I totally agree. And I think, as you said, things have changed so drastically. And thankfully for Family Search, we can upload all kinds of different things now for people to remember their loved ones by. One quick story, the very first interview I did, it was my former neighbor. She's 97 years old. And she shared the story of when in the 1920s, they drove to southern Utah in a 1925 Hudson, I believe she said. And she said back then the roads were gravel. She said, can you imagine how long that would take? I'm like, no. So obviously, right? Yeah, like how much longer, Mom? And so she talked about fiddling with the back door as they were going, and she fell out on her face onto the gravel. And they found a farm that was off, not very far from where they were, and they went to get help because she had cut up her face. And the woman there put butter on her wounds and it healed, but she had a picture of this. And it made so much of her story come to life. So that's another part of this, is how important photographs are, keeping these photographs, scanning them, saving them, so that when we come and do the interviews, these photos really help just make the story so much better.
So the picture was her with butter on?
Yes. Her face was cut up, and you could see the grease, the glitter on her. In the 20s, they had a photo of this, and standing in front of this 1925 Hudson. And I thought, wow, this is just fabulous that you have so many wonderful pictures. But if I could say one more thing, Ganel-Lyn, it doesn't have to be the elderly. There's a woman in my stake who is a dear friend, and we had scheduled to get her husband's story done. And she called me. We had it on the calendar, and she said, we have so many things going on. It's Bill's 80th birthday. Can we do it after that? And I said, absolutely. Bill died on his 80th birthday. And it was so sad. I felt so bad that we didn't capture that.
Wow.
So I just want to encourage people, don't wait till it's too late. Even if your parents are younger, talk to them. I interviewed a gentleman yesterday who is 52, I believe, who was an Air Force pilot and unfortunately has a serious physical condition now that is not allowing him to do the things he wants to do. So don't wait until it's too late. Ask questions. It's very simple. You can contact us at theforgetmenotproject.com is our website. You can go there to see what we do. Or the email is Kathy@theforgetmenotproject.com. I love what I do. It's a gift to these people, Ganel-Lyn. I'm so grateful for my mother and the example she set for me. I wish I had done this for my grandmothers and my grandfathers as well, that I would have that. But I've already interviewed my father. I have his story completed. I've done my aunt and my uncle, and just trying to get as many family members as I can for their children, and also for me, because I don't want to forget them either. And there's so many valuable lessons that we can learn from their stories that help us, whether it's through our testimonies, whether it's this is how you get through difficult times. This is what I did, and I know you can do it too. And I think they're invaluable. So I really hope that the listeners will take the time to talk to their loved ones, learn what they can learn before it's too late. And as you know, Ganel-Lyn, at losing my sister, when that hits you, the finality of it is so profound. Even though my mother was older, the finality of it is hard for me still today. I miss her every day. It's been almost 3 years. So don't wait till it's too late. They have wonderful things to teach us, and especially in the gospel of Jesus Christ and their testimonies. My mother's testimony was simple. She literally never bore her testimony in church because she was petrified of public speaking. She never spoke in church. She couldn't do it. And so for her to tell it to me was priceless. And it's helped me in my life stay close and stay on the covenant path and close to my Heavenly Father.
Well, I so appreciate your testimony, and I love that we both share that grief has led us to do work that maybe we would not have done, and that if anyone hires you, they literally get over 30 years of broadcasting. I mean, I don't even know how you put a price on that, but I think your invitation to do anything to capture stories is such a beautiful invitation. And that the simple testimonies we have and the simple daily things that we do right now feel like nothing. But I guarantee your grandson will look back and go, wait, you lived through a pandemic, Grandma?
Exactly.
In March.
So, Ganel-Lyn, I've interviewed some really famous people throughout my life.
Yeah.
And it's been enjoyable.
Yeah.
Nothing has been better than interviewing these people who the world doesn't know, right? But yet they are everything to their posterity. And to share their stories and to get to know them better is if someone were to ask me my greatest success aside from my family, that would be it. It really would, because this to me is such an important work, because what they say and what they share will help those they love the most.
And you know what? I amen everything you say. That's exactly what High Five Live is all about. It's everyday faith stories. It's what I've tried to include in 4 of my books, that it's the everyday person at the grocery store that you have no idea is caring for their Alzheimer's parent or their child that has an addiction, or that if we really knew each other's stories, the heroes and angels that are walking among us every single day. I amen everything you say. Thank you for thank you for wrestling through all the technology and being my guinea pig on this technology that I think is going to be a blessing in the future. But like anything new, I learned some things today to remember for the next time. And I feel like if anyone watched our conversation at lunch, like, this is the second best thing. I love seeing you, and I love feeling of your spirit, and I love that you really ignited in me a desire to have some conversations in the next week with people I love. So thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And lunch. We're going to lunch soon.
Lunch. As soon as they lift the restrictions, which I heard there's some stuff that may be starting to open up. So
Okay,
Yeah.
you're on the list. Let's go.
Okay. I love you, friend. Thank you.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.